Okay, done. Thank you very much. All right, let me just start all over again lah, just to be sure. Okay. Again, this is bahan pentaksiran penerusan ongoing assessment case study. All right, and then it will comply with the third course of learning outcome, which is apply relevant negotiation skills in selected case study. All right, and this will be 35% of your ongoing marks. All right. So all the instruction will be down here actually. So it's actually the same as the first page, right? But the instruction will always be down here. All right, you can just go through the second page and read all the instruction down here. Submission will be on the 20th of December, all right, which is in 2 weeks time. So this is 6th of December, next week will be 13th, and the other week will be 20th of December. All right, so you got a few questions over here that you need to answer based on this field analysis of negotiation. All right, this was taught during our lecture of negotiation process. Okay, so based on figure 4.5, a field analysis of negotiation, you will have to come up with a situation which involve any negotiation process. All right, you can come up with a situation which has already happened to you based on your experience, or you can just made up any form of negotiation process that you can think of. All right, take one example, a situation where the one that we can see in the previous lecture. All right, buying condominium, for example. All right, and then explain on that particular situation. All right, what are you looking for? All right, what are the merchandise or the items or the situation or the things that you are negotiating about, and who are involved in that particular process. All right, and then based on this field of analysis, you need to identify, all right, what does A, B, C, D, and E represent? All right, this particular alphabetical order doesn't are not represented by A, just A, B, C, D, and E. They have their own particular role. All right, for example, A is buyer, B is a seller, for example, and then C, D. All right, you can find that in the previous lecture that I have shared with you. All right, and then you need to explain their role. All right, explain the role of A. All right, as a buyer, what is your task? As a seller, what is your task? And C, D, and also E, for example. All right, and then provide relevant example of who or what does A, B, C, and D, and E would have been in your negotiation process that you visualize. So in this particular situation, all right, give them character. Okay, another question. Story-based explanation, yes, but it will be in written form. This is not recorded. All right, so you will have to write them down in form of essay. Okay, all right, thank you, Ramya. All right, usually I will set like not more than 350, but of course, when it comes to writing, all of you will exceed that number. So sometimes some of you might go up until 500. That will also be understandable, but please do not go beyond that. All right, so maximum will be, let's say, like 350 to 500 is already okay. All right, and then where will we provide relevant example? All right, give character. What? Give character to these particular alphabetical orders, all right? And please state and explain who would they be in your story. Yes, I like that term, Ramya. Thank you. In your story of negotiation over here. All right, and then based on this figure, all right, please identify what kind of negotiation would you practice. Would it be distributive bargaining or integrative negotiation? And please justify your choice. All right, bear in mind, all right, for this particular question E, all right, there will be no right or wrong. All right, for question D, there will be no right or wrong. It's just that for B, okay, you need to know the role that they are playing or name. All right, the what you call that, the term that we are using to represent A, B, C, D, and E. All right, but the rest will be all be depending on your storyline of the negotiation process. All right, so justify why would you choose distributive bargaining, why would you choose integrative negotiation. All right, and please write them in form of an essay. All right, and not more than 500 words. Okay, all right, so this is the field of negotiation. Just to freshen up your memory, all right, this was done back in the chapter of strategy and planning. Okay, strategy and planning. I've already shared you these slides. All right. So these are the names of A, B, C, D, and E. I'm just going to give you a glimpse of that one. Right, later on you will have to to search for their names on their own. Okay. So it should be in. Let me check. I think it's week 3 or week 2 or week, oh no, not here. This one. All right, this one. All right, week 4. Okay, strategy and planning. So the slides is there. All right, so you can refer to the slides when you are doing your assignment. Okay. All right. Any question about the assignment before I move on for tonight's lecture?
Sir,
Yes, Madam Khoo.
just to reconfirm, we just
Okay.
have to put in the character, not their names. For example, like this is a seller, Sally, no need, right? Just their character only.
Up to you. If it helps you to put names to them, all right, rather than just the character that they are playing, it will also be okay. Right, because
Okay.
this is kind of like a narrative form of essay, whereby you are explaining a negotiation process based on the field analysis of negotiation. Okay, Madam Khoo, clear?
Okay, sir. So it
Right,
will be
thank
only
you.
one question, but there will be like A, B, C, D, E. We have to answer according to the question.
Yes, yes, you have to answer according to the question, but make it into essay form. It doesn't have to be like A explain, B explain. You can just jumble everything up into one particular essay.
Okay, okay.
All right, okay, thank you, Madam Khoo. Another question?
Seven.
Yes,
Seven, I just
please.
want to ask, so there will be a table of content, or you want just like a
Like normal essay, right, Ramya? Only like intro, body, and conclusion. Or it have to be like
Yes.
1.0 introduction, 2.0
Okay.
objective, something.
No,
Noted.
no, it just have to be in a one shot written essay.
Oh, okay.
All
So, okay,
right.
noted. Okay.
So I will know that when you begin your introduction, it will be telling me about the negotiation process that you are visualizing, something
Okay.
like that. When you are
Understand.
putting your intro, yes.
So like we answer question in exam, right?
Almost like we answer question in exam. Yes, case study in exam.
Alright, sir. Thank you.
All right, most welcome. All right. Okay. All right. So I think if there's no more question, I'm gonna continue with the lecture presentation. All right.
Sorry, can you accept David? He couldn't hear
Uh,
me.
okay. Okay. Wait.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Where's David? Still waiting for David. Okay. Don't worry, Zahara and David. I'm gonna explain the assignment again to you at the end of the session. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All
Sorry.
right. Most welcome.
Nampak tak boleh nak join tadi.
Tak apa. Okay. Still waiting for David, right? Alright, never mind. Okay. All right. So I guess that's all for the explanation of assignment. So I think I may excuse Madam Khoo because she got an event in the house right now. So don't worry, the lecture will be pre-recorded. You can always refer to your e-campus for the pre-recorded lecture. All right. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. All right. Thank you, Madam Khoo. Have fun. Okay, let's continue with tonight's topic, which is communication. Okay, of course, the title of the subject itself is Arts and Science of Negotiation in Communication, but we will never neglect the important aspect of all the whole course or the whole program, which is negotiation. Okay, right? All right. So this is an example or a transactional model of communication involving two parties. Is David still asking to join, or David is already with us?
He tell he already request, but then
Got
he did,
rejected. What?
yeah,
Right,
rejected.
right. I already asked him to. Oh, yeah, over there.
Okay.
Okay. All right, David already joined. Okay, thank you. All right.
Oh, sorry, sir.
All right, never mind, David. Got lost in what you call that? Was he sad? All right, okay. Where were we? All right, transactional model of communication involving two parties. All right, usually when we talk about transactional model, especially when we go back into interpersonal communication, so we know that this is not like the traditional linear model where communication is only a one-way process. So, a transactional model indicates that one particular person can be a sender and he can also be a receiver. So vice versa, a receiver of a message can also become a sender of a message as well. So we can see in this particular situation, all right, communicator A, all right, will encode the language, all right. Encode the language here means putting it into coding. I mean, not like coding or like Morse code or something, all right, but putting it into symbolize, all right, symbols of languages. It can be in terms of languages, it can be in terms of non-verbal cues, right? Sending it through medium, all right. It can be in spoken medium, it can be emails, it can be phone calls, any of the medium, all right. Receive and interpret by communicator B, and then the process begin again by communicator B, encode again, all right, putting it in a medium, and then receive and interpret again by communicator A, all right. So we know that the recipient received the message, hear it, read it, feel it, and then seek to assign meaning to it by interpretation. All right, interpreting the both information content and the other party's motive for transmitting it. So when we receive the information, all right, not just we are trying to interpret, all right, that particular message, we will also try to interpret the motive, all right, of the person trying to send the message. For example, we got a text. For example, girls, especially got a text from a guy. Hi, how are you? All right. So the decoding process over here, all right, you will decode saying that okay, this person is asking how you are, all right, or maybe just asking for your condition. But apart from that, you are also trying to interpret the motive of the person trying to send, right, that particular message. Is he flirting? Is he just trying to be concerned? Is he just someone that you know previously or something? Okay, sorry. Then the recipient becomes a sender, all right, encoding the message, all right. This is already put into the model, all right. And a verbal or non-verbal responses that may try to accomplish a number of things, right? So you convey message because the other person information about the original message was received, right? You want to be responsive, you want to respond, right? You know how to respond as well, right? In a negotiation, as in a poker game, sometimes receiver at times prefer not to react in a way that is detectable by the communicator. Especially in negotiation process, sometimes your reaction will be a bit subtle, all right, a bit how you call this, not that 100% exaggerated or 100% obvious. Sometimes you will try to hide a bit of information. Take for example promotion when you are negotiating, all right, or maybe there's a reduce of price, for example. You want to save that one particular bullet, right? That is your last bullet when you want to attract your customer, for example. Okay. And then the communicator respond to a message that has the opportunity not only to choose how to encode the response, but also to select a channel or medium to use for transmission. So it doesn't have to be when a person speaks something to you, you will also have to reply in form of spoken language. You know, sometimes when the person speak to you, all right, sometimes you reply in email, for example, or reply in text messages, or reply in short, what we have in WhatsApp right now, a voice note, for example, right? Although it is still a voice, but it is not transmitted face to face via spoken language. Okay, so people often make a channel selection out of habit or convenience. All right, so we always select our channel based on our habit and also whatever it is convenient to us. For example, sorry. He sent me an email, so I reply by email. Or she left me a phone message, so I'll return the call, for example, right? So whatever it is convenient for us to reply. So in negotiation, the feedback provided by the recipient of a message to its sender can take various form. All right, like what I've mentioned just now, right? Not just you. It is not restricted to only spoken language if the message was delivered to you in spoken language. It can also be non-verbal gesture, all right, express emotion, right? Maybe you can just ask question, all right? Or maybe you can just respond to information responded by having an attempt to build upon the first message or a rebuttal to an argument. So it doesn't have to be always agreeing on the message. Sometimes you can rebut or refute the message by expressing disagreement as well. Right? Sometimes in negotiation, all right, we could also have distortion or disturbance in in communicating, all right, the negotiation process. All right. So number one, individual communicators, right? Whether sender or receiver at a given point in the exchange, each have goals and objective they want to accomplish. So during a communication process involving negotiation, right, we know that both of us or both of them have their own goals to accomplish. All right. So these particular goals sometimes contradict between each other. If you are practicing, right? If you are practicing distributive bargaining, all right. So you got one thing that you need to achieve, all right. Another person also got one thing that they need to achieve. So messages are the symbolic form by which information is communicated. So we know that messages can be very symbolic, right? They can also be misinterpreted. Right? Encoding is the process by which messages are put into symbolic form. Right? This is the process whereby it will be affected by varying degree of skills in encoding. Right? Encoding here meaning that you are putting the message into a form that can be transmitted in any kind of medium. For example, the fluency of your language. Let's say if you are fluent, much more fluent in Malay and you are not that fluent in English, all right, it will be quite hard for you to transmit the message back into English, right? And also it can be in terms of your skill at written and also oral expression, how you express yourself, how you communicate your self-esteem will also affect the way you encode the message. Okay, channels or media are the means through which communicate information is sent and received. So take this particular situation, for example, a communicator who wishes to convey an emotional appeal may risk message distortion or disturbance, all right, in the process of delivering the message in writing, when a personal conversation will make it easier to convey emotion. So in conveying emotion, sometimes it will not be clearly expressed or clearly justified in messages or in written form. But face-to-face interaction will be much more effective if you want to convey emotion. All right. Other than that, distortion of meaning can result when there is no linkage between multiple channels used at the same time. For example, if a parent says to a child, "Don't do that," but simultaneously smile or laugh, leading to it will lead to confusion. So there must be linkage between the multiple channels that you are using, meaning that the spoken language, the verbal language, and also your non-verbal gesture must also align when you are communicating. Reception is the process of comprehension. So when you receive message in their verbal, non-verbal, or symbolic form and decode them into a form that is understandable to the recipient of the message. If you are putting it in a very confusing kind of manner, for example, using foreign language which is not familiar to the people that we are communicating with, using jargons, a lot of technical terms, or it will also distort communication. Interpretation, the process of determining the meaning and significance of decoded messages for the situation going forward. So if the other party managed to interpret it in a very positive manner, for example, or interpret your gesture as something which is very helpful, which is very pleasant kind of messages, all right, it will always continue going forward. But if he or she misinterpret the message, all right, there will be distortion in communication. So an important way to avoid some of the problems in communication is by giving the other party feedback, all right, because when you inform the sender that the messages were received, encoded, and prescribed with the meaning the sender intended, they will always be happy that whatever it is being said to you is already received and also decoded by you as well. All right. If you do not provide feedback, all right, there will be a lot of misinterpretation. For example, are you not being happy because you don't provide feedback? All right. Or you are not pleasant with this particular negotiation process or something like that. Okay. All right. So what is it communicated during negotiation? All right. So these are some of the things or the category of communication, all right, that we are talking about or what that we are communicating during a negotiation process. Number one, we will have offers and also counter offers. Right. Number two, we will also have information about alternative. What are the things that we have? All right. If we do not like this particular option, what are the things that can be done to help us? All right, to come with a mutual agreement. All right, we can also have information about the outcomes. All right, our evaluation. All right, will vary depending on what they know about and how well the other party did. It depends on how do you perform in that particular negotiation process and how much information do you have about the things that you are negotiating about? All right, social account or explanation. The negative effect of relatively poor outcomes. All right, if you have a poor outcome, all right, it can be alleviated when the other party offers social account. When they offer you explanation, all right, the let's say something bad happened, all right, something unpleasant happened during the communication process. But if you got a good explanation, all right, by the people that you are communicating or negotiating with, all right, the negative effect or the negative impact will be much more, how you say this, there will still be negative impact of that particular kind of situation, but it will cause you to feel calmer, or it will soothe the information, meredakan keadaan. Okay, communication about process when conflict intensifies, risking progress. All right, communicating about the process may interrupt a conflict, all right, spiral and restore constructive tone for approach. So when something bad happened during that communication process, during that communication, sorry, all right, when he or she managed to explain to you what is the next step that need to be done, what are the things that need to be prevented, all right, it will help you to reduce upcoming risk, all right, and it will help you to reduce the chance of the negotiation being interrupted. All right. Okay. All right, I already explained that in the particular, what you call that, table. All right. So later on, you can browse through all of this explanation as well. Okay. Alternative, all right, about the outcomes. Okay. Social account. Sorry, let me just go back to social account. All right. So you explain explanation that you make to the other party, especially when the negotiators need to justify bad news. This is social account usually involve delivering bad news to the people that you are negotiating with. Sorry. So you will have three particular approaches, all right, in expressing your social account. Right. Number one is by explaining or mitigating circumstances. Okay, mitigating here means you are justifying, all right, the circumstances where negotiators suggest that they had no choice in taking the position that they did. I have to offer you this price because we got no choice. The labor cost is increasing day by day. Right, so we don't have no choice. We can just stick with this particular price. All right. Number two, explanation of exonerating circumstances. Exonerating here means you are pardoning, giving pardon, right, or being pardoned for some circumstances. Right, where negotiator explain the position from a broader perspective, suggesting that while their current position may appear negative, it derived from positive motive. Like for example, making an honest mistake. All right. Reframing explanation whereby outcomes can be explained by changing the context. For example, why do you have to change from short term to long term gain? Why do you have to explain that this particular project, all right, will take a longer time to be completed and so on? Okay. All right. Okay, then it's fun. Right. So does it matter what is said early in the negotiation? So usually when you comes into negotiating terms or negotiating about, let's say, the simplest one will be about buying things, for example. All right. Communication patterns during the first 5 minutes, right, it will have a large effect on the negotiated agreement that the parties eventually reach. Right. For example, if the more negotiators spoke with emphasis, right, varying using a lot high vocal pitch and volume during the first 5 minutes, the worse they did and the better the other party will did. All right. In other words, if when we control the flow, all right, when we control the first 5 minutes of our negotiation process, all right, it will help. But it is also important to avoid dominating the early conversation with emotional or hyperbolic. All right, meaning that you are deliberately exaggerating communication. For the first 5 minutes, do not straight away go into promoting this, promoting that, promotion, discount, all of this, because all right, you will cause not just confusion but also information overload to the people that you are negotiating with. Give some room for the person just to understand the circumstances and understand the term of the negotiation process before you use offers to attract, all right, that particular person. All right, same goes to you when you are buying as well. All right, save some of the offers that you are open with, all right, at the end of the conversation as your final bullet, all right, if the other terms are not working, okay? How people communicate in negotiation, right? This is quite interesting, right? Because it involves the use or the characteristic of languages, right? Sometimes when we communicate in negotiation, we will use polarized language, all right? So polarized here indicates that you are dividing, all right? You are dividing the path of your communication into two ways, all right? So you will use positive words when speaking of their own position, for example, trying to be generous, reasonable, even-handed, and also negative words when referring to the other party's position, all right? If they are being unreasonable or heavy-handed, all right, it's hard to negotiate with them, all right? All right, the conveyance of verbal immediacy, whereby you are using a measure of internal immediacy, right? You are showing immediacy. Things need to be immediately done. Urgency or relative psychological distance, all right? Either high and intended to engage or compel the other party. For example, okay, here's the deal. I take great care too, or you use some low kind of intended language to create a sense of distance or aloofness, all right? Well, there it is, or one should take great care to something, all right? And then the degree of language intensity. So high intensity language conveys strong feeling to the recipient, to those who are receiving, all right, your information, or to those you are communicating with. As with statement of affirmation, for example, you are affirming something, all right, or the frequent use of bad language. And low intensity conveys weak feelings, right? Sometimes, all right, it will be quite good if you are a bit, I'm not going to say harsh, a bit strict, all right, when you are communicating, when you are negotiating. But sometimes you also need to lower your tones, all right, and also convey low intensity, all right, to show that you are being composed and you are also trying to get a mutual gain, all right. Both of you are trying to get mutual gain from the negotiation process, all right. And then the degree of lexical diversity, all right, or the command of a broad, rich vocabulary, the vocab, the words that you are using. Right? If you have high level of vocab, all right, it will denote comfort and competence with language. It will show that you are very comfortable with your language and competence in using the language. However, if you have low vocab, low level, denote that you might be having discomfort or anxiety, or you are inexperienced in using that particular language, right? The extent of a high power language style. So low power denote by the use of verbal hedges. Verbal hedges meaning that you are making a statement less forceful. For example, excuse me, would you mind showing me around to the lot that we are buying, for example, all right? Hesitation or politeness to the point of difference and subordination, whereby high power denotes by verbal dominance, or you are being verbally dominant, you like to clarify things, you are showing your firmness in expressing yourself, okay? And then the use of non-verbal communication, all right? So sometimes you will make, of course, a lot of time you will make eye contact, all right? And then you will also adjust your body position, and sometimes you will be non-verbally encouraging or discouraging what the other party says. For example, you are using tonal language, for example, yes, oh, I see, oh, what, oh, that surprised me. Those tonal language, all right, will also tell the other party whether you are encouraging or discouraging their offer. All right. When selecting a communication channel, we need to understand the concept of social bandwidth by Barry and Farmer 2004. All right. Social bandwidth indicates our ability, all right, or the ability of a channel to carry and convey subtle social and relational cues from sender to receiver that go beyond the literal text of the message itself. Meaning that a social bandwidth is a very open system, or is a very open medium whereby whatever it is being delivered, right, doesn't really carry the meaning of the particular words, right? Sometimes, okay, you might say things, I'm okay, but actually deep inside you are not okay. For example, you are not okay with that particular situation. So it go beyond the literal text, the actual text of the message itself. So typically negotiation and communication process will occur face to face, right? an assumption reinforced by the common metaphor of the negotiation table. So when we are using the metaphor of negotiation table, we know that we are actually meeting the other party face to face, discussing and also negotiating. All right, but sometimes, all right, the use of network mediated information technologies, all right, in negotiation can also be referred as virtual negotiation or sometimes electronic negotiation. So sometimes you will be negotiating over the phone, over emails, over teleconferencing, all right, and anything that involves technology and also electronic platforms, right? So in selecting a communication channel, Thompson and Nadler 2002 identify four specific biases that can hinder success in online negotiation. So if you are involved in a lot of negotiating online, all right, so these are some of the barriers, all right, that will affect the success of your negotiation process. Number one, temporal synchrony bias, right, whereby you have the tendency for negotiators to behave as if they were in a synchronous situation when they are not. All right. So temporal synchrony bias indicates that you are negotiating online. Actually, you are not facing them. Maybe you are facing them like this on screen, but there is actually nobody literally in front of you. But then you are acting as if there is someone in front of you. Okay. Number two, burn bridge bias, right, indicates the tendency for individuals to employ risky behavior during email negotiation that they would not use during a face-to-face encounter. Sometimes we tend to be keyboard warriors, right? We tend to say bad things, for example, or we tend to be very expressive when we are writing email, posting comment or something like that, right? Rather than when we are face-to-face with the other person, right? So we need to control this to avoid, okay, to avoid biases and also to avoid negative effects that can hinder our negotiation process. Squeaky wheel bias, all right, is the tendency for email negotiator to use a negative emotional style to achieve their goals. For example, being unethical by, I'm not saying bad things, but sometimes you are saying to the, for example, if you're selling your condominium, for example, you will say that, oh, this is the last lot. If you don't take this, all right, someone else will. I already have one or two buyers in my waiting list, all right. So I don't mind if I lose you. So these are some of the negative emotional style used to attract, all right, the other party. And then sinister attribution bias, which occurs when negotiator mistakenly assume that another's behavior is caused by personality flaws while overlooking the role of situational factor. So we tend to think that the other party or the other person is acting in a way because he is like that. For example, we say that, for example, let's say we say that Abu comes late to class because he is a very clumsy person, whereas we overlook the situational factor, which is maybe during that day, all right, his car broke down, or maybe he has to send his children to school, or maybe he wasn't feeling well. Right, these situational factors sometimes, okay, will affect how people react and also how people are doing, are performing in negotiation process. Right, so apart from this particular impact that will affect the success of your negotiation process, right, we also have a few ways to improve communication in negotiation. All right, so the three particular measures that can be taken are the use of question, all right, listening, and also role reversal. All right. All right. In the form of questions, all right, the use of questions, there are two particular forms of question, which are manageable question and also unmanageable question. All right. Manageable question calls attention or prepare the other person's thinking for future question. For example, may I ask you a question? To get information, how much will this cost? And generate thoughts. Do you have any suggestion to improve our current situation? Whereas unmanageable question, they will cause difficulty. All right. For example, when you give information, didn't you know that we couldn't afford this? All right. Or maybe bring discussion to a false conclusion. Don't you think we've talked about this enough? All right. So many unmanageable questions are likely to elicit defensiveness. All right. So when you always practice this kind of unmanageable question, all right, it will imply that you are being defensive. All right. Anger from the other party. So although this question may yield information, will help you to get information, Sometimes they may also, not sometimes, most of the time, they may also make the other party feel uncomfortable and less willing to provide information in the future. Okay. And so these are some examples of manageable question. All right, for example, open question, you invite the others to think. So what do you think of our proposal? All right. And also some example of unmanageable question. Okay, for example, heated question where you are being highly emotional and you are trying to trigger emotional responses. Don't you think we've spent enough time discussing this ridiculous proposal of yours? So we can see that manageable questions are much more softer, right? Much more manageable and acceptable, whereas unmanageable question will try to trigger a negative impact in our negotiation process. Okay, so we also have question or for tough situation. You can read this on your own later. For example, if you are using the take it or leave it ultimatum, right? If we can come up with a more attractive alternative than that, would you still want me to take or leave your offer? Okay. Improving again, all right, we can also improve negotiation in communication or communication in negotiation, all right, by listening well. Okay, so we have three form of listening, which is number one, passive listening. It involves receiving the message while providing no feedback to the sender about the accuracy or completeness of reception. Okay, so sometimes you will be very passive while listening, right? Because you know that being passive itself is enough to keep a communicator sending information. Although you're not giving feedbacks, all right, you know that the other person will not stop giving you information, all right? Sometimes, all right, you will be acknowledging, all right, or you will use acknowledgement as a form of listening as well, whereby you are slightly more active than passive listening, a bit active than passive listening, acknowledging the receiver occasionally by nodding your heads, right? Maintain eye contact, right? Or use small responses like "I see," "Interesting," "Really," "Sure," and go on. And the third one is being active in listening, whereby when receivers are actively listening, right, you will restate or paraphrase the sender's message in their own language. All right. So, are you saying that this particular deal can be done within 2 days? Wow, that's very great. So this is a very good deal, right? For example, okay. And of course, role reversal, whereby it allows negotiators to understand more completely the other party's position by actively arguing this position until the other party is convinced that he or she is understood. For example, someone might ask you how you would respond to the situation that he or she is in. If I were you, I think I would take this condominium. What about you? If you were me, right? Do you think this condominium is big enough for your family? For example, as if you are putting yourself in their shoe and also putting themselves in your shoe, right? So in doing so, you can come to understand that person's position, discover how to modify both parties' position to make them more compatible, especially involving integrative negotiation. Sorry. All right. So when you are closing the deal or closing the negotiation process, so there are some special communication consideration that you can also follow. Okay. Number one, please avoid fatal mistakes. For example, you need to know when to shut up. All right. You need to avoid surrendering important information needlessly. Okay, and to refrain from making dumb remarks that push and decisive counterpart away from the agreement. Right. Do not say things that will make the other party to be distracted or get away from the deal that you are working on. All right. And also, you need to watch out for last minute problems such as nitpicking. Nitpicking is looking for fault, all right? Looking for fault finding or trying to find things which is faulty or which is very wrong in that particular negotiation process. Or second guessing by parties who didn't participate in the bargaining process but who have the right or responsibility to review it. For example, all right, a couple buying a condominium, for example, all right, maybe the loan, the ownership will be on the husband's name, right? But then he still has the wife, okay, to help him to make decision. So you need to watch out for this particular kind of situation. Convert the agreement to written form, of course. recognizing that the party who writes the contract is in a position to achieve clarity of purpose and conduct for the deal. So whatever it is being negotiated verbally, if you have come to an agreement, convert everything into a written form or into a contract. Right, that's it for today. Okay, any question about this topic? This topic is not that hard actually, but it has a lot of terminology that you need to go and revise on, right? But don't worry, everything lingers around the what you call that, your experience of negotiating. Okay, all right. Okay, I am gonna explain again the assignment because we have Rabia and also Zahara, all right, with us right now. Okay, so Ramya and Zahara, we're gonna have this particular assignment of case study. All right, so the due date for the assignment is on the 20th of December. Today is 6th of December, so you have 2 weeks, all right, to complete this particular assignment. This is a written assignment, a case study, okay, and this will carry 35% of your ongoing marks, all right. Okay, based on this particular field analysis of negotiation, okay, so you need to apply relevant negotiation skills, all right, in the selected case study. So based on figure 4.5, which is a field analysis of negotiation, visualize a situation which involve any negotiation process. So you can come up with any kind of negotiation situation. It can be your own experience, for example, or you can just made it up out of anything. All right, you can just made it up out of nothing. Okay, so looking at this alphabetical order A, B, C. All right, not this the lowercase, the uppercase over here. A, B, C, D, and also E. All right, you need to identify who or what does A, B, C, D, and E represent. So you need to identify the term, right, that we use to name or represent A, B, C, D, and E. Explain the role of A, B, C, D, and E in figure 4.5, right? And then provide relevant example of who or what does A, B, C, D, and E would have been in the negotiation process that you visualize. So let's take, for example, Zahara negotiating with a customer. So A will be the customer, B will be Zahara because Zahara will be selling, A will be buying. All right. So there's a term, all right, that need to be used to represent A and also B. Okay. And then you will also need to identify the role of A and also B. And in the visualization, all right, of your negotiation process, this is more of a narrative writing whereby you will come up with a story of your negotiation process in form of essay. All right. So the essay, usually I'm gonna set like 350 words maximum, but then I know when you are writing, right, ideas are pouring, you can go beyond that. So let's say we can do this up until 500. So try not to go beyond 500. Okay. All right, assign names or character, all right, to this visualization. Visualize characters of A, B, C, D, and also E. All right, A, B, C, D, and also E will be individuals in this negotiation process. All right, looking at this, all right, for example, David have experience with football, so you know this is a football field. All right, A is one player, B is another player, C might be the substitutes, D might be the spectators, E might be the other factor out of the stadium, for example. Okay, all right. So based on the field analysis of negotiation, you need to choose or identify between distributive bargaining or integrative negotiation, which one is much more suitable to your imaginative negotiation process. And please justify your choice. All right. So to make things easier for you, this is already taught or already explained in week 4 in the topic of negotiation strategy and planning. All right, so we already have the chapter in there. All right, this is not like the direct answer scheme, no. All right, but it will help you to visualize what kind of situation that you would like to explain. All right, in your made up negotiation process or in the negotiation process that you have experienced before. Okay. All right, any question on tonight's topic or maybe on the assignment? Anyone? Yes, say yes. No, say no. All right. Got
No,
question.
sir. Thank you.
No question. Okay. All right. So I think that's all for today. So if you got any more questions regarding to the assignment, so please don't hesitate to discuss in our WhatsApp group, or you can even ask me personally. But I think it's better for us to discuss in WhatsApp group because we only have the 6 of us in there, right? Maybe it will be the same question as what will be asked from your other friends as well. Okay. All right. If there's no more question, all right, I guess I'm gonna end the session for tonight. Thank you for joining. Okay, so good luck in doing your assignment. I hope that um, you will have enough time, and also you will do the assignment properly because this is 35% of your ongoing marks. Okay, so thank you very much. Assalamualaikum, and have a very good night, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.